What's going on, guys? All Blitzel here, and today I'll be going over the Pokemon TCG rotation in 2023. This video I'll primarily be going over the top meta decks from this current format that we're in, and saying that the key cards that they lose. I will not be going over any new archetypes from the new sets or from Scarlet and Violet. I won't be going over any fringe decks that become a lot better. I might briefly mention them, but they're not going to be the focal point of this video. If you'd like me to do a separate video about decks that get vastly better from the rotation, let me know. So first, I'm going to explain the rotation, what it is, why it happens, when it happens, and then we'll be going deck by deck with key cards that it loses and potential alternatives. So the rotation happens once per year, usually around the Pokemon World Championships, where usually about 5 or 6 sets are rotated, and they can no longer be played in standard format. And starting in the Sword and Shield era, they introduced those handy little letters in the bottom left corner of the card. So now the rotation in 2023 will be E-block cards onward, or battle styles on in terms of sets. There are a few exceptions like Quick Balls and Fusion Strike, but has the same regulation mark as the Sword and Shield one. So this will freshen up the meta a little bit and give us something new to play with for Scarlet and Violet. This happens every year. It usually happens around the World Championships, but they decided to wait until Scarlet and Violet came out, I guess, because I think Scarlet and Violet wasn't ready to go, and they wanted to kind of reboot everything like TCG Live, Scarlet and Violet, new standard format, all kind of at the same time, and Live wasn't ready, Scarlet Violet wasn't ready, so they kind of had to delay the rotation. So definitely always a very impactful time. So now we will be getting into the decks that are most impacted by the rotation in 2023. Alright, so the first deck we'll be going over is Lugia VSTAR, the BDIF of the current format that we're in. Lugia actually loses quite a bit to rotation, loses a lot of its backup attackers, both amazing rares, and probably the most important thing is it loses pretty much all of its good special energies. Capture, Powerful, and Aurora really limits the attackers that Lugia can sort of mess around with. So I think going forward, Lugia might have to either lean into being a more tanky deck, like Charon's Care, Gardevoir, V-Guard Energy, but that is kind of flawed because EXs are coming around. So V-Guard and Gardevoir will not reduce any damage. So it could definitely, I've seen people messing around with a Rapid Strike and also a Single Strike Lugia deck where you bring down the Arceopses and you could use the Primal Turbo to put special energies on a Rapid Strike Urshifu or on a Gengar VMAX or Tyranitar. There's all sorts of attackers people are messing with. I still don't know what the most optimal way to run Lugia is post-rotation, but Lugia is definitely one of the most hurt decks to the rotation. Like Stoutland is basically a loss now because Powerful Energy makes it so. With Powerful Energy leaving, Stoutland does not do very much damage anymore, so it's basically a non-factor. So it'll be interesting to see how Lugia adapts. I don't think it's fully going to go away just because Summoning Star is incredibly powerful. I think it'll always be as powerful as the special energies as it has. So I don't know. Who knows? Maybe in 3 sets we get a Rainbow Energy reprint and Lugia is back on top. But we'll have to wait and see. But for now, I'd say Lugia gets pretty significantly worse to the rotation. Next up, we have Mew VMAX. I would say Mew VMAX is definitely the biggest winner from the rotation. It loses very little compared to what a lot of other decks lose. Mainly the only card that is very relevant at all is Rotom Phone. And it has plenty of other ways. Rotom Phone was never an integral part of Mew's game plan. It's always just a consistency card that Mew loved to have. And you can just put shoes in your deck. You lose Quick Ball, but when you're getting Nest Ball reprint, you can use Feather Ball or Fog Crystal to kind of offset that. And some Fusion Strike Mews to play Rose Tower, but I think Drapion's going to be very popular, so definitely Lost City could be, it's going to be the dominant stadium in Mew, I'd have to imagine. I don't know if the Fusion Strike or Double Turbo Mew build will be better. I could see Fusion Strike being better just because it's a little stronger into Drapion. You don't have, you still have the Roxanne Path and Judge Path to disrupt those Drapion decks, but also just Fusion Strike Mew's always been a little stronger into Drapion because you have a one prizer that can deal with the Drapion pretty quickly. So I definitely could see a lot of decks that just say screw this, we're playing 2 Drapions or we're taking the dub to Mew. which I feel like could be a viable game plan, but we'll have to wait and see. We still don't know what everything's going to be in Scarlet and Violet yet. I'm not super familiar with the set. I know Koraidon and Miraidon, or not Koraidon. I know Miraidon's going to be very, very good, and Gardevoir's probably going to be pretty good. But other than that, I don't think there's any like meta breaking cards in the set. So I don't think there's going to be a whole lot of threats to Mew VMAX. I believe it's probably the BDIF post rotation, but time will tell. We could. Um, I mean, Drapion is just kind of a toxic counter card. Like, it's just bad game design because you print a super OP card like Mew, and then you have to print. Like, you shouldn't have to print a one card counter to a deck. Just make your game balanced in the first place so you don't have to print one card counters. But that's another rant for another video. So, I'm going to call Mew the biggest winner from the 2023 Pokemon rotation. On to one of the most interesting, I would say, developments of the rotation is Lost Zone Box. It loses quite a few core cards. Zigzagoon, Ordinary Rod, Capture Energy, Balloon, Oranguru, Scubanet. Scubanet is definitely the biggest loss of those, and you also lose some of your primary attackers in Rayquaza and Raikou. But you do keep that core backbone of Cramorant and Sableye, and you do gain some solid cards. You get Hawlucha, which is sort of I'd say a side grade to Zigzagoon. It lets you put 2 damage counters now, one on 2 of your opponent's bench Pokemon, so it can't be put on active, which is a bit annoying, but I think it's probably better in some situations and worse in some situations. I put Skyro Bridge on there. I don't remember what the new stadium is called, but we get basically a reprint of Skyro Bridge. All basic Pokemon in play have 1 retreat cost less. So this gives your Comfey, Sableye, Cramorants all free retreat, which is excellent. And while I think Lost Zone Box will definitely lack that explosiveness, you won't probably be able to get turn 2-7 the Lost Zone, turn 3-10 the Lost Zone quite as easily. But I do think it will still be a very powerful deck. Like, you have Clara to basically sub in for Ordinary Rod, and Banette's, I think, a card that is going to find a home in Lost Box finally, because that ability lets you put it into the Lost Zone, but you can get support out of your discard pile and put it into your hand. So you can quickly ramp up your Lost Zone that way. And you might also be able to do things with like Vacuum for a Seal Stone and still find ways to get stuff into the Lost Zone quickly. I just think you kind of have to think outside the box a little bit. And also I think just the way that the format is evolving with 2 prizers coming from single prize basics and also lower HP basics, like so that Sableye loves to bully, Cramorant loves to pick on in the early game, is definitely going to be, I think, play their Lost Box strengths and its early aggression and power to take advantage of those littler Pokemon. And also Lost Box like those Mirage Gate box decks are always going to be strong when the card pool is big, and the card pool is going to be basically at an all-time low after rotation. So as sets will go on, those like Mirage Gate, more toolboxy builds will definitely become better, but when the card pool is small, you don't have quite as many cool options to go with. I'm not saying that Mirage Gate builds are not going to be good, because I'm sure there's still going to be some vibe way to build it, but I do think a more turbo Sableye build will probably end up being better just because Lost Mine is such a broken attack. So I think I've definitely seen some people like overreacting, saying Net and Balloon leaving are sort of like the death of Lost Box, but I do think that it definitely is going to remain viable. It'll just be different, and I think that's okay. Like, having turn 2 Mirage can be a bit obnoxious sometimes, and having Lost Mine turn 3, like, or even sometimes you could see turn 2 Lost Mine in standard, which would be like very oppressive if you're trying to play any sort of single prize deck. So definitely means if Lost Zone Box is weaker, stuff like Zoro Box has like always sort of lived on the fringe, could finally come back into relevancy. I do think Zoroark matchup spread's pretty cool. Like, it has probably one of the best Mew matchups in the game, but I kind of wanted to include Zorobox in this list. I just wanted to give it a shout out. It's definitely one of my, I think it's kind of it's sleeper post rotation. Like, I think it definitely gets a lot better. But yeah, that's Lost Box. I think it'll be interesting to see how it evolves, because it's definitely probably gonna have the most radical engine change. Like, you're gonna keep the Chorus Comfeys, definitely playing carts, ropes, some of those that Skyro Bridge reprint. But I think we'll probably see a thicker Banette line. Could definitely see like heavy Pokestop with like Vacuum Seal Stone like engines, try to quickly put things into the Lost Zone. Definitely depend on what's most efficient, and time will definitely tell on what proves to be the best way to build Lost Box post rotation. On's definitely the biggest loser of rotation, like aside from decks that obviously cease to exist because their win condition rotates. That's definitely Regis. You lose an item-based recovery card in Ordinary Rod, and you also lose your rainbow-colored energy. So there's the thought of playing basic energies and Regis just makes me cringe, just because Regis is already a pretty inconsistent deck, and then you can't play Ordinary Rod, so you're not going to be quite as explosive, or at least quick to bounce back after knockouts get taken. And then now you're going to be playing a ton of different basic energies, so like you have that headache of, oh, I can't use Regieleki this turn because I only have a fire, a grass, and a water now. Like, it just seems so rough. Like, I think there is that luminous energy that was revealed in Triple B. I don't think that will be in English Scarlet and Violet. I think it'll be in our second Scarlet and Violet set. But yeah, this looks really rough for Regis. I don't think it's probably gonna be like banished to the Lost Zone until we get until we at least get Rainbow Energy reprint or something similar to that. Not having like an item-based recovery card is definitely suboptimal, but Clara, I think it would be viable if we had like Aurora Energy staying around, but I see little reason for hope with Regis, and I know there's a lot of people who love playing Regis, and I see little reason to be optimistic that Regis will survive past the rotation. Next up is Palkia VSTAR. I feel like Palkia is going to have like a major rebranding after rotation. It's sort of been like the Inteleon deck for quite a while, and now it's going to kind of lose that identity, I guess you could say, with Inteleon leaving. So I think we'll kind of have to go back to basics with Palkia, excuse me. Like some of those early Australian lists right after Astral Radiance came out, we're playing the Mew Shoes Cross Switcher like Turbo Palkia. I think that's probably where the direction Palkia is going to have to go. I think it'll be interesting to see how it combats single prizers, because with Wash Energy leading, which is a card I did not put on the graphic here, your ISQ game plan into Lost Zone box is not going to be viable anymore. So it'll be interesting to see like if Palkia will just be one of those decks like kind of like Zoroark that like just has a good time into two prizers and that's about it, because I definitely could see without like you've seen Palkia play V-Volt, you see it play ISQ, Wash, it's not going to have those cards anymore to really have a decent time into single prizers. One of its own single prizer and Inteleon to attack with. Obviously, it will have Radiant Greninja still to pick off Pokemon in the early game, but Manaphy does exist. So I think it's kind of weird. Like, I think Palkia might be it's definitely in a worse spot. But I don't know how negative it's really going to be. I think it'll definitely, we'll have to see how the meta develops. If it's a more single prize meta, definitely, I think Palkia is in for a rough time because it just can't combat the single prizes as good as it used to be able to. But if it's a more two prize, like Race to the Finish meta, and we can go cross with your Echoing Horn and take prizes faster than your opponent, I definitely think Palkia could have a solid home in the meta. But also with Lightning being OP too, Miraidon, that new generator card, I think that the Lightning weakness is all of a sudden, I mean, it's been bad since Lugia came out, but it's definitely going to be really bad with Lightning being arguably best deck in format. So, yeah, that's Palkia. I would kind of put a question mark on like the verdict of whether this is going to be worse or better. I think like it'll have to just go a new direction, and we'll definitely have to wait and see how things develop with Palkia. And the final deck we'll be talking about today is Arceus Duraludon. Fitting that the most bland deck in format has the most bland graphic here. You can probably tell from if you've watched any number of my videos that I'm not a very big fan of Arceus Duraludon. You're going to be losing Hyper Potion and Big Parasol, but Parasol is really going to lose a lot of its value with Yveltal leaving. I think Hyper Potion is kind of big because it removes like some of your tank ability into those single prize matchups. You still have Crystal Cave, but I like Lost City in my Arcturel personally. So I think I don't think Arceus Duraludon is going anywhere. I think it's still going to be around as long as they're both in standard. I think this might be the way Arceus has to go. I think even like solo Arceus with Curlia and like kind of like a reboot to old Arc Intel. Or it's going to be Duraludon. It probably depends on how strong special energies are, because if special energies are rampant, then that Skyscraper always looks pretty good. So I don't think there's like any like alternative to Hyper Potion. Like I guess you could say Crystal Cave, but I don't know, like that 30th turn compared to that big 120 heal, it's pretty drastically different. So that's why I didn't put anything up here. Um, 220 could be interesting with like some Choice Belt or Karen Math reaching those lower HP EXs. So I definitely don't think Arceus Duraludon's going anywhere, but I do think it's going to be a decent bit. I don't think it's going to be a decent bit weaker. It'll just be not quite as durable. So that's pretty much all I got. I will touch on a couple decks here that I think are going to get better. I think Zoroark VSTAR, assuming Zoroark VSTAR will be better. I think single pricers in general do get worse. Lost Box is not going anywhere, but I do think they get worse. So like Zoro Box and Hisuian Zoroark VSTAR are definitely improved decks. I didn't throw Goodra up here, but I do think Goodra is going to remain around. I definitely think Dialga could maybe make a little. I mean, I guess no Saucery's been pretty bad. So, oh man, the Ho-Oh Thornton memes might be back. Ooh hoo hoo. Yeah, this rotation is going to be a very interesting one. I definitely think that the format's not going to be slowing down at all. Like seeing EXs, power creep's not going anywhere. The format's not slowing down. So anyway, that's yeah. I don't think we're definitely not going back to 2017. Decidueye Vileplume and then later on Zoroark Mirrors and things like that. We're not going back there, and that's unfortunate because those are some of my favorite formats ever. But unfortunately, that's not the direction that Pokemon is taking the game, and we can pout about it, but it won't get us anywhere. So we've got to keep moving forward. So thank you guys for all of the support. We crossed over that 150 mark yesterday, and I just wanted to give you guys a big thank you for supporting my videos, liking, commenting, sharing, all that fun stuff, commenting. I really enjoy answering and reading every single one of your comments, so it really makes my day to see that people care and genuinely enjoy what I have to say. Like, I don't really think, I guess, that highly of myself, that like 150 people like what I have to say consistently enough to subscribe to my channel. Like, it's kind of a mind-boggling thing to think about, but yeah, just thank you guys so much for the support. Like, it really just makes me extremely motivated to keep working hard. And I'll be back with another video tomorrow, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. And this has been all at Blitzel, and I'll catch you in the next one.